Hello, everyone. It is week 7. This is super exciting. We are actually almost halfway done with this whole semester. Time really does fly. This week is a very special week. We are going to start talking about our first big project, and that is our video lesson. This is actually technically your biggest single project for the semester for this class. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And I'm going to give an overview, provide an example, and then we're going to dance along with it. It's nothing too stressful. It's just teaching, but it's time we started teaching. The more we do it, the better we get at it, and that's an important thing to do. All right. Now, you should be getting feedback for your introduction videos, and I think a healthy mindset about your introduction videos about stress is that was very much like a kind of warm-up for this, as in video production. And so we'll get in much more detail about this as we go on throughout this lecture, and everything else is going a-okay. Next week, week 8, we'll see each other in person, and next week we'll be focusing on making our lesson plans for this project I'm going to introduce to you right now. Let's talk about your first big project of this semester for this class. Now, so far we've been practicing and learning different aspects of pronunciation, mostly areas of stress, rhythm, intonation we're getting into. But we've also dabbled. We've gone into talking about teaching, particularly talking about lesson planning, why it's important, how we do it. And now it's time to really start teaching, to get into it. So your first major project, this is video lesson 1. And simply put, this is a video demonstration lesson. You're going to make a 3-minute lesson for elementary school students based on the topic you've chosen. There's page numbers, and I'll attach those in a PDF, and we'll go over them in this video as well. Once you're complete, you'll send the link. Make sure that you title your video with your name and your department number, student number. Like before, we have with our introduction videos, you need to have them unlisted. Your audience for this is me. I'm your audience. So that'll be that. So please try to avoid naming it like Yagasup. That's very nice, but you're not the only student. So try to remember to put your name, student ID, and your class, your department. Don't name it good. I don't like some students have done in the past. Now, later on, we're going to see an example video that I've made previously as well. Now, the 5th part, and this is important, you need to have a fun video, enthusiasm in your delivery, your presence, your on-stage persona needs to be high energy, high enthusiasm. And that's something that some of us have had a little difficulty with in our introduction videos. We're very low energy, low and flat. Need to bring it. Since your lessons are only going to be 3 minutes long, very short amount of time. That's 37 minutes shorter than a regular class. So it's only 3 minutes. It's a very truncated, very small lesson. Then you need to cut down. You need to simplify what you're teaching, and we'll see that. So you can cut down your content language, your vocabulary, just 3 words, and your functional language, your grammatical language, to just a single phrase. You do need to make a lesson plan for your video lesson. That is important. You do need to make a lesson plan for your video. Make sure, please, to upload your video to YouTube as an unlisted video and put the link in your video in your submission. Makes everything easier for everyone. Make sure that it's unlisted and not private. That is important. Now, let's go over on the categories that you'll be graded on. So first, your lesson plan. Your lesson plan is an important portion of this project. Does it make sense? Does it have a purpose? Is it clear and understandable? remember, with a lesson plan, it should be clear and understandable enough that another person, another teacher, can look at your lesson plan and teach your lesson. Make sure your lesson plan has every part: the introduction, pre-teaching, teaching, activity, review, closing. So these are going to go fast. And also, make sure that your lesson material is accurate. Do not teach students the wrong vocabulary, the wrong spelling, the wrong grammar. That's all important things to be aware of. Make sure to double check with me about the accuracy of your lesson. We'll talk about that more in a bit. Also, here, your voice and presentation on camera. That will be graded. For your introduction video, that wasn't as great as much. I made notes about it. I gave you suggestions. So hopefully you can take those suggestions and make improvements. So the introduction video was very much an attempt to get you warmed up for these things. So your lesson materials and video quality will play a role. Now, I understand that most of us are going to be using free to download and use software. That's fine. But do the best you can. Try to adjust as much as you can. Make sure that your video is clear. Make sure your lighting is clear. Don't try to avoid showing your ceiling lighting, because those are very, very bright and destroy everything. Be aware of your sound quality and try to make it as good as you can, and try to work with it. Be smart about things. Doesn't mean you need to spend money. It just means you need to try and not just go talking to your phone for 3 minutes. That's not good. Now, also your presentation ability, your poise on camera. This is where we're starting to become the personas of our teachers. We're almost all of us, or if not all of us, are first years. That's okay. You're transitioning from student to teacher. But being a teacher is different from being a student. You need to have higher energy. You have to have that friendly persona that won't scare away children. All those things. You need to know. Make sure to make eye contact. Be happy. Look, not necessarily be happy. You don't have to be happy. But you have to look happy. Look friendly. And that's an important thing. So this will all be on eClass as well for the exact dates. It's now week 7, and unless all goes wrong, the videos will be due end of week 10. Your first part of this lesson, you're going to choose what you want to teach. Now, I've prepared a selection of lessons, of chapters, and you'll choose one and prepare your thoughts and prepare a first draft for lesson plan. Because in week 8, next week, we're going to meet in person. I'm very excited for that. So I want you to be ready to, with an idea of what you want to do, have some notes of what you want to do, and we're going to prepare first draft lesson plans next week. And so I can provide immediate and direct feedback on your lesson plans. And now, this is a first draft. It's not graded, but there's one person who's going to be doing the grades. That's me. So if I give you feedback about something, you don't have to listen. You don't have to listen. You don't want to. If you really don't like it, fine. But there's one person doing the grades. That's me. So next week I'm going to try to give you feedback on how to improve your lessons, and we're going to start next week by walking through and making a lesson plan together, and hopefully this will help you walk through the process and think about your lesson plans. Because it is a process, and so it's good to get practice with it. Let's take a look at what you can teach. These are selections from different textbooks, English textbooks, Our World and Let's Go. These are for different target grades, and you'll see the difference. So the first example right here is from textbook Our World. Lesson title, Let's Eat, target 3rd grade. And we see content language, vocabulary, beans, mangoes, noodles, meat, ice cream, snacks, grapes, chips, yogurt, nuts, cheese. And then we see new functional language. These are remember, content words are the vocabulary, and functional language basically is the syntax, the actual skeleton of the language. So we see Are there any Yes, there are. No, there aren't. Or, and is there any Yes, there is. No, there isn't. So that's it. That's all that's being taught in that lesson. Now, because of time restrictions, you might want to cut down some of these vocabulary just to save some time, to simplify things. But make a 3-minute lesson teaching some of these vocabulary and are there any, is there any question, and how to answer. That's lesson 1. Lesson 2, target grade 3 again, and new content language: the sky, the sun, a bird, a rock, a tree, a butterfly, a river. And functional language: what is it? It's a What are they? They're So we see singular and plural similar to lesson 1. 3 again, lesson 3 again with 3rd grade. New content language, the vocabulary: gloves, a skirt, a jacket, pants, a shirt, a dress, socks, shoes. And functional language: what are you wearing? I'm wearing Now, it's important to remember, if you're teaching 3rd graders, and in Korean public schools, that's when they're starting to, it's the first year they've been taught English officially. You cannot use too advanced language to explain what you're talking about. They're not going to understand words like adjective, noun, verb. They don't know that yet. They're not going to learn that till much later. Now, they know the words in Korean, but this is an English lesson, and we're practicing using English. Do not use Korean in your English lesson. This is part of the exercise. So, but the words you use in teaching are going to be different between teaching 3rd graders, teaching 5th graders, teaching 6th graders, and in the event that, if you were to teach middle schoolers, it'd be very different. We see this with lesson 4. Again, we see 4th grade: a hospital, a bakery, a museum, a park, a supermarket, a train station, movie theater, a toy store, a police station. Now, this is something to remember, because in Korean we don't have articles. So a lot of Koreans have a tendency, especially when they're learning English for the first time, to omit the articles, to not say the articles. So instead they would say hospital, bakery, museum. So it's important to teach students to use the articles in English. Articles are very important. And then we see the functional language: how can I get to the go straight, turn left, turn right, across from. So we have our vocabulary and functional language on giving directions. Lesson 5, on the move: content language of how to, different means of conveyance: a boat, an airplane, a helicopter, a ship, the subway, notice, a scooter, a taxi, a motorcycle. And here's the new functional language: but So it's really, we know that with but, we have A, but B, things like that. Two things that don't agree with each other. Lesson 6, animal habitats: a tongue, fur, horns, wings, a pouch. Why? Because. Now this one's quite clear. Why does a bear have a tongue? Because it needs to eat honey, for example. So some of the grammar is getting more complex, as well as the vocabulary. Now, for the others, we see here textbook Let's Go, target grade 6th grade. And here we see verb phrases: watering the plants, feeding the fish, writing on the board, talking to the teacher, reading a textbook, writing an essay. Which boy is his name? Which boy is Bob? He's the boy who is watering the plants, for example. It's more straightforward there. But we see the longer vocabulary, the longer. Lesson 8 helps us, again, with target grade 6th grade, with exciting adverbs: amazing, boring, interesting, tiring, exciting, scary. What did you like best? I liked It was amazing. So talking about likes, things that you really liked, and why. So we see more detailed, more precise vocabulary, and giving reasons, which is important. And in the future, talk about future tense, of what we're going to do. Target grade 5th grade, do homework, wash the dishes. These are, again, not just vocabulary words, but phrases, getting the students to practice the entire phrase so they can speak sentences. So what will you do after class? Asked the functional language. I think I'll after class. We see it's more direct here. And lesson 10, talking about the senses. We see butterfly, beautiful, garbage, bad, noise, awful, mask, ugly, music, wonders, rose, good. And then the functional language, how does the butterfly look? It looks beautiful. So we see describing and answering. Now, this is what the textbooks have, and it's quite helpful. But we'll talk a little bit more about your own personal freedoms, about how to make the lesson. Lesson 11, we have food again, but we see it's a little more, it's a little more robust than what we gave the younger students. Fried noodles, potato salad, sushi, ravioli, crepes, kimchi, that's kind of a gimme, tofu, and tacos. Have you ever eaten? Yes, I have. No, I haven't. So practicing and asking about experiences. In lesson 12, explore the world. Target grade 5th grade, walk quickly, walk slowly, speak loudly, speak quietly. Paint beautifully, dance gracefully. How does she walk? She walks quickly, for example. Asking how we do things. That's all quite important things to take care of and to do. Now, just to emphasize, you're going to choose one of these lessons. If you want to add a vocabulary to or two words, you can. Don't add too much, because don't make it too complicated for such a short lesson time. Remember, you only have 3 minutes. But if, for example, you are teaching about this food and you want to add, instead of, say, fried noodles, you add fried rice, you can do that. That is your prerogative. Or, for example, you're talking about clothes. What if you're at home making this lesson and you want to use something else like a sweater? Yes, that's fine. After all, a sweater's not an overly advanced vocabulary word, but you can add or change vocabulary, but you need to make sure it's in your lesson plan. And that's the super duper important thing. Now, for our lesson plan, I'm going to ask you to follow this format, the 7 E's of lesson planning. This format really helps you, especially as we're learning about lesson plans, helps you really think about your lesson and force you to follow the procedure. So big picture, what are they learning about? Learning outcome. At the end of the lesson, what will students be able to do? That's effectively, what should be the outcome of their learning? And how can you measure success or not? Elicit, what do the students already know? How are you going to establish what they know or don't know? What's their background knowledge? Engage, prick their interest. Try to make students interested in your lesson. Explore, you're going to start introducing the lesson material. First-hand knowledge to build concepts. So about food, for example, or clothing. These are very easy to show examples of, because pictures, and everybody eats, everybody wears clothes. Students in the past have used themselves as models, or just in their bedroom closets, the clothing they have as a way of introducing the clothing. It's a very readily available material. Using real materials is very nice. Students, it helps connect the the ethereal academic English language that they're learning with real world things in their lives. Explanation is the actual formal teaching part. Elaborate, you're going to demonstrate their learning, and then extend and evaluate what happened. Don't forget resources. What resources are you going to use? What do you need for that? Time, you'll notice that each step has a box. That's for the number of minutes. Now, for this lesson, it's only 3 minutes long. So you're counting in seconds. So you're going to go fast, basically. What's next is what will be the next step for the students in this. Literacy, oracy, ICT, numerology. Don't worry about those at all. And in fact, the format I'll give you for the actual assignment, they won't have that. I'll simplify it. But I think we're going to walk through this lesson plan in class together to help you actually get a very good start. But we'll talk about that more in a bit. All right, there we go. Now, again, I want to reiterate that next week, week 8, in class together, we're going to make lesson plans, and I'll be able to see your lesson plans and provide direct feedback on it. So next week, we're going to walk through together and basically reverse engineer a lesson plan, and then I'm going to ask you to make your lesson plans, your first drafts, and I can provide feedback in person in class while we're there. So your task for this week really is to look at the list of possible choices of lessons and choose one. You can choose whichever one you want, and I want you to start thinking and writing down ideas. I want you to have a rough idea. You don't need to write a full lesson plan, but I want you to think about what you want to do. What activities could you do? What on earth could you do for this video lesson? I want you to have some idea. So write down some notes about what you'd like to do with your lesson and something I can give you feedback on, really. So this is a big project, and I want to help you make it as good as possible. So that's quite important that we hit the ground running, so to speak. Then with week 8 and 9, we'll also be in person again, and we'll continue working. But for now, for week 7, take a look at the example video that I'm going to insert as well. And then also think about what you want to teach, how you could teach your first lesson.
Hi boys and girls, I'm John Teacher, and I have a question for you. Do you like food? Yeah, sure, we all do. Have you eaten every kind of food in the world? Probably not. Today we're going to learn how we can ask and answer if we've eaten a certain kind of food. Let's check it out. Come on. When we talk about if you've done something or not done something, we use the phrase, have you ever? Have you ever? Then we can ask the question, have you ever eaten rice? Have you ever eaten alligator? Today, we learned and practiced to ask and answer, have you ever? Have you ever? So, have a good job. We'll see each other next time. Goodbye!
All right, there we go. That's a short example I made. Now I have video production. We talked about that. We'll talk about that more next week in person. But remember, what is your first job? What is your job for this week? Your first job, your only job for this week is to look at that list. Look at that list of all the different lessons. Choose one. Which one do you think you like? Which one might be the easiest for you to do under the circumstances? If you're filming at your home or in your dorm room or somewhere, think about what's physically possible as well. That's something to bear in mind. And I want you to come prepared with ideas. And hopefully you remember those ideas and you write them down somewhere. Write down your ideas. What kind of activity can you do? What kind of how could you present the vocabulary? That was quite important. So next week we're going to be on full-on lesson plan workshop, and we'll do that together next week. I hope you're staying healthy. I hope we're able to have class next week, and if all goes well, things being the way they are. So please stay healthy and stay happy, and we'll see each other next week for the first time. I'm excited. Goodbye.